Welcome to Recently Logged, where this week we're talking about that one Tom Cruise film, but not the one you think. Greetings.
Hello. Welcome to Recently Logged.
And salutations.
Well, not salutations yet. We got like a whole episode to go. Hello, welcome to Recently Logged. I'm Robbie.
And I'm Micah.
And together we talk about the many films
Movies.
of Tom Cruise.
All of them.
We already did all the Mission Impossible movies.
Exactly. We're ticking them down.
We just have to get through the rest of them now.
We've got a lot to go, but but they're there. He's been in 82 films.
Man. Minority Report.
Really out there. Wonder how many feature length. Hold on, talk about something.
Okay, today we're talking about something cool, something awesome.
76 feature length films. That's not that much difference. It's pretty impressive.
Is that counting documentaries?
Yes.
Okay. But yes, we're talking about a pretty cool film this week.
Yeah, we're talking about Ridley Scott's Legend,
which I had never heard of.
I had never heard of this either. Okay, so we were in Barnes & Noble shopping for Criterion.
The Barnes & Noble Criterion half-off sale.
And no, this is not in the Criterion collection. It should be, but it's not.
This would have a dope
we were sitting there buying our mini Criterions.
Yes.
And our mom was there too. And she walked over to that little section in Barnes & Noble where they have like the really cheap
like $3
movies.
Blu-rays. Yeah.
And this was sitting there, and she saw Tom Cruise, and she was like, what if we bought this? That would be so silly.
Wouldn't that be so silly?
Because we didn't know what it was, and the cover on the Blu-ray we grabbed looks terrible.
Okay, the physical release, I think this is like the 2011 Blu-ray release of it.
Yeah.
Because it has two different cuts.
I think it's called like the Ultimate something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Something like that. But it has like the ugliest cover.
It looks so ugly. But she buys it. We buy our Criterions. I got Kronos and Scenes from a Marriage.
I got All About Eve and Oakja, I believe.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And when we look at it, I'm like, Legend. That looks stupid. And I look it up, and it's like a Ridley Scott film.
Ridley Scott.
It's got Tom Cruise, Mia Sara,
What's up with
Tim
that?
Curry. Like I was like, what's going on? And then we watched it, and yeah, now we're here to talk about it. We just watched it again like 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, right. We just finished the movie.
We actually watched the director's cut because it came with the theatrical cut and the director's cut on this Blu-ray.
Yes.
So we just finished the director's cut. We've seen both cuts now, and I'm very excited to talk about this film.
Let's go over what you need to know about the movie.
All right, so Legend is a 1985 movie, rated PG.
Ooh.
The theatrical cut, that's all this. All of this is information for the theatrical cut. Is an hour and 34 minutes. Its little IMDb description is: a young man must stop the Lord of Darkness from destroying daylight and marrying the woman he loves.
Yes.
It was nominated for 1 Oscar.
Whoa, hey,
Best makeup.
Okay, good.
The makeup, very well deserved.
It's so good.
I don't know what it lost to, but kind of surprising. As I mentioned, the cast, we have Tom Cruise, Mia Sara, Tim Curry, David Bennett, Alice Playten, Billy Barty, Cork Hubbert, and others.
Nice. Good ensemble.
Directed by Ridley Scott. Written by William Hjortsberg.
Nice. Sounds Swedish almost.
Yeah, I don't know where that name is from. And yeah, that's the information. That is what you need to know.
That is everything you need to know about Legend. Don't ask any more questions.
Apparently, there are 4 different versions of Legend.
Okay.
There was the European release, the American theatrical release, the TV release. Ooh. And the director's cut.
Yeah. Let's hear it for the director's cut.
Ridley Scott's first cut was 150 minutes.
Whew. A spicy movie.
His director's cut, by the way, is only 113. There's really not like too terribly much added from the theatrical to the directed.
Yeah, it's like an extra like 20 minutes or so.
But still, very, very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think any movie that has like an actual definitive other version of it is always very interesting.
Apparently it had a different score originally too, and somehow a lot of the footage and the original score for his cut got lost.
Well, I know it sounded like there was a different score under the director's cut than the Tangerine Dream one that's on the theatrical one.
So that might be that score. But apparently something happened with the director's cut, because even when we turned on the movie, it mentioned that it had almost been lost.
Yeah, it had a disclaimer about how it was almost destroyed and everything. And I'm like, dang.
So very glad it wasn't.
Very glad it wasn't, man.
But yeah, let's get into talking about it.
Let's do it.
So Rabbi.
Yes.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Rabbi.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Legend?
Legend, the Ridley Scott film.
The Ridley Scott film.
This is
from 1985.
This is my third Ridley Scott movie, I want to say. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it's your third Ridley Scott film.
But yes, I don't know. What is there to say about Legend that hasn't already been said?
Actually, not much has ever been said about that.
Right, like no one talks about this movie.
And like the only other person I know who had seen this beforehand gave it like a 2.5, and I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Sad.
But yeah, Legend, it's an ode to classical storytelling, done by a director who really knows his stuff.
To classical. You're stealing what I said when we finished this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When we watched it the first time, I was like, it plays out as.
I mean, I can't really read it as
like
anything
a
other
perfect
than
homage to like classic storybook fairy tales.
Yeah, I was about to say, and it pulls that off really, really well. It got nominated for makeup and it deserved it. This movie looks amazing.
Oh my gosh, the different fantasy creatures and everything.
Yeah, the fantasy creatures, the costuming, the special effects look great even now.
Dude, even like the one CGI character that's in it,
right?
Which there's only one that I can think of.
I honestly couldn't tell you if there's another one. But yeah, no, it looks great. The Swamp Witch looks great. But yeah, no, it looks amazing. I love the way the story plays out. I love the general kind of dreamy tone it takes on. I don't know. It's a magical movie.
It's a magical movie
that I would not expect from the guy who directed The Martian.
Right. Okay, it's really funny too, because like you say like it's a magical movie.
Yeah.
Like 90% of this movie like looks like there was like a team of people just off screen, like blowing bubbles, throwing confetti and glitter at everything.
The glitter squad.
Like that's
for the movie.
like everybody is coated in glitter. There's an actual scene where the forest fairy guy Gump is like threatening Tom Cruise's life,
goodness.
And like bubbles start coming into frame.
There's snow blowing in the air. There are bubbles cascading everywhere, and there's giant bits of glittery confetti falling everywhere.
Is like getting thrown on Tom Cruise while his life is being threatened,
it's like
and he has to answer a riddle. Of course, that's only in the director's cut.
It's beautiful.
Okay, but I think I'll get this out of the way. The director's cut is better.
Yes, I would tend to agree. I think just about every change that they make in the director's cut, stuff they add, the way they present stuff, I think it's all better in the director's cut.
Like I can't think. There's one thing that I actively don't like more in the director's cut versus the theatrical, but it's very rare. Very tiny little moments,
exactly.
And on the whole, I think the story works a lot better.
Oh my goodness, the story flows so much better.
And we just watched the director's cut, so keep in mind that we'll probably be like
most of the things we talk about will probably be about the
director's cut.
Which I don't know. I would view that as kind of the definitive cut of this movie.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the European one, but I imagine that this is...
Well, the European cut's shorter, so I imagine Europe does a lot. Like a lot of times, releases in Europe will cut down to get certain ratings because their rating systems always work differently. So I'm assuming they probably just cut some of like the violent stuff in it or something.
Which, if anything, they needed to add more stuff. You know, that's what I'm saying.
It's PG, Rappy. PG. We already have like torture and like beheadings and
the torture is pretty brutal, man.
Exactly.
But we'll mostly be discussing the director's cut. Which, if you do watch this movie, I recommend that you watch.
Yes, if you can find the director's cut, watch the director's cut.
Yes.
But no.
Yeah.
As you were saying.
What else is there to add? I mean, it's great. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So I again, the one person I gave this 2.5. I wasn't expecting much going into it.
Yeah, neither was I.
The theatrical cut really blew my mind. I kind of fell in love with so much of what it is. This is one of the most gorgeous movies I've ever seen.
Man,
the sets are insane, and the director's cut just brings it to life more with a little bit better editing and everything.
Yeah,
folding on shots.
They linger
on
stuff more, so you can see more of it,
and adding different things and editing it in different ways, and it just looks gorgeous. Like the first half of the film, or not really the first half, but the first act of the film, you have just these absolutely beautiful,
oh my goodness,
super thick forests and fields and cottages, and it looks so lived in and really genuinely you want to be there.
It looks so good.
And then the second half of the film, it gets super grimy and dirty and gross and also super lived in. And nothing looks fake about this, even though everything obviously isn't real.
Yeah. Wow, but man, it's so good. And I didn't even mention all the supporting characters and stuff in this are so much, they're so much fun. Right?
It plays perfectly into a lot of fantasy tropes in a way that delivers really, really fun side characters without
dipping into annoying side characters. Yeah,
without dragging on,
which is
too
very
much on
easy
them,
to do,
or having annoying side characters. It's very tight.
All the side characters have their one specific thing, and they do it and they move on.
I don't know, man. It's a cool movie.
Yeah, man, it's great.
What did you rate the theatrical and director's cuts respectively?
Back when I watched the theatrical, I gave it a 9 out of 10, and just when we finished the director's cut, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I think it's just about as perfect as it can be.
I did the same, because even though there are some things here and there that I didn't like, just specifically 2 or 3 cuts, literally just a cut.
Mike is I don't like the timing of this cut in the movie.
or a scene or something. There's literally very little that I don't like, but what this accomplishes is such a feat, and it's so gorgeous and really engaging to my personal sensibilities and taste in media. And I don't know, it rocks. It's so much fun to be in.
I would show this to my kids,
And you got young squeaky Tom Cruise.
What is it with young Tom Cruise? He always, I feel like they pitch up his voice in post or something, because he sounds the exact same as he does now. It's just his voice is higher.
Right? No, I mean, people's voices drop. His just, I guess, dropped again when he was 20 something.
It's just so weird. I don't know. It always took me way out of Top Gun.
Dude,
man.
Top Gun, his voice is so high and squeaky. I was not expecting it.
It seems more fitting in this.
Right. But yeah, let's get into questions.
All right.
Do you have any questions to kick us off?
Yeah.
If not, I have a question.
Sure. What did you think of the general art direction? Because that can kind of make or break a lot of fantasy stuff.
So I think this is actually a really unique and cool question to talk about, because you're right. Fantasy is very heavily art direction in terms of visual fantasy stuff.
Well, because so much of it is based off of real stuff, but you have to make it feel magical.
And I really love the art direction they go with this. Again, it feels very storybook. It feels very classical. It reminds me a lot in various different elements of how I imagine a good adaptation of something Narnia would be.
Yeah.
Or again, something like Lord of the Rings, but a little bit earlier. It's not quite as clean as Lord of the Rings.
If this was if Lord of the Rings was made in the 80s, this is how it would have looked.
Yeah, this is I kid you not. There are so many things that feel very and it's that kind of fantasy in terms of tapping into that very classic, very kind of grimy but very cool and very, I guess, rich designs of everything.
I would describe it as rich,
everything is rich.
Yep.
And I think that's it's really unique.
I was about to say, I love the creature designs in this too.
It allows them to go really over the top with pretty much everything. So you can have these cool creature designs. You can have the Lord of Darkness's horns being 3 feet long, and it works because all of your stuff is very over the top. Your little cottage is over the top, and there are birds eating the seeds, and the light is shining at 2 million degrees, and they have little wood carved things, and everything comes together. So it allows it to really go above and beyond in its fantasy designs and elements.
I don't know how Tim Curry was able to walk around in the makeup he has on.
How was he able to breathe?
You're right. My goodness, man.
It's so thick. The makeup, the prosthetics.
If you would have told me that it like wasn't actually Tim Curry, I might have believed you.
No, if it wasn't for his voice, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I was about to say, if not for his voice, like. But yeah, no, it's crazy. I just love the like general, all of the exaggerations that they choose to go with. I think they work really well.
Yeah,
I love the way it looks.
And I think it's interesting because when they first introduce you to a lot of the elements, when I was first watching it on like the theatrical version, I was a little cautious. I wasn't fully feeling it. But like it definitely, like as it goes on, it really gets you into it. And I think again the director's cut adding a little bit more here and there really allows that to work better.
Letting you sit with the makeup and stuff a little longer in the director's cut really, it works. It helps it a lot.
Yeah, and like the voices and everything, because like the goblins like weird pitched up distorted voices, and even Tim Curry's voice has like a clear digital boom added to it.
Yeah, it does.
And like, you know, it's very interesting things in like Tom Cruise flipping around everywhere. Dude, his like second thing he does as an introduced character is like front flip towards Mia Sara.
One of the greatest moments in cinema history, Mike.
Which actually reminds me of something again with this introduction. In the director's cut, they have Mia Sara singing.
Yes.
Why did they cut that? She sings like 5 times.
There's so much singing in the director's cut that's not there. Like there's no singing in the
Why
theatrical.
would they do that?
They're so
and because they had to cut around her singing, some of the cuts towards the beginning especially don't work as well.
No, yeah, in the theatrical cut, it's very choppy and kind of weird, but
you get her singing. She sings to Tom Cruise. She sings to unicorns.
It's true. It's good stuff.
She's out there doing the most. Also, I really don't remember, and I could just be completely zoning out and forgetting. And the theatrical cut, I feel like they didn't take like much. I don't even remember them mentioning that she was like a princess.
No, they mentioned that she's a princess, but like in like one line. That's it.
It's really weird. She's like heavily a princess in the director's cut. It's like a big thing.
Yeah, no, in the first scene where she talks to the one lady in the cottage, she says you're a princess.
Yeah, see, and the way she said it in the theatrical cut, because this is what I was thinking. I thought it was just kind of like you're a princess.
Yeah.
You know, you're too pretty to be here or something like that.
Yeah.
Not like she's actually
an actual princess. Right.
But no, it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But man, the opening and everything gets you really like the first act in the director's cut especially is just really, really crisp.
It's so good.
And it does a really good job of easing you into all of the elements.
It's such a beautiful little movie, man.
Right?
I gotta love it.
Dude. And the lighting setup.
Oh my goodness. The lighting. I don't even want to try and imagine what the lighting crew was going through on this movie.
But I have a question.
All right.
What is your favorite scene or sequence? And I'll do this. I'll say director's cut and theatrical cut respectively.
Okay.
Because I have different answers.
For the theatrical cut, it's easily the like seduction of the princess and everything. That whole scene with the dancing. And, it's such a good scene.
That's so good.
I think that's easily the best scene in the theatrical one.
Yeah.
Even though it is edited quite a bit differently than the director's one, but I think the choppiness of it actually works in the theatrical one.
No, I was about to say,
which is really interesting
because the theatrical cut, like that was the one scene I was talking about that I think is the only thing I really dislike about the director's cut.
You prefer the theatrical version?
I prefer the theatrical cut of that scene a lot more.
I like how choppy it is.
Because the choppiness leans and the score is a little bit differently.
Yeah, it feels more disorienting.
And it feels kind of disorienting. It feels a little bit more creepy, a little bit more horror-esque.
I think that's where Tangerine Dream's score for the movie shines, is in the creepier moments, because it's a very synthy, creepy, kind of crawly score.
So I absolutely loved that moment in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
Whereas in the director, and I mean, it's still good.
It's still good in the director's cut, yeah.
But it's a lot more like...
It feels different. It feels like, more elegant.
Yeah, I was about to say it's more elegant. It's more like, ooh, less like, ooh, you know? And I think for that scene specifically, I liked the more creepiness of it.
That's fair. For the director's cut, I would probably go with, I don't know, just... That's a tough one. I really like...
Well... Here, let me say this while you're thinking about it. I think what makes it a little bit more difficult for the director's cut in general, actually, is that, again, like I was saying when we were watching it earlier, it feels like it flows and goes so much faster than the other one. Like every scene is kind of just rolling into the next one.
Yeah.
So that's, again, a good side of pacing. But like its editing and everything, it just very much goes and flows and rolls. So especially with a quest movie like this, there are very few like individual scenes that you can just be like, this.
Yeah, I was about to say, all of the segments that I'm thinking of are like really, really brief, but they're really good. Like I love like moments. The swamp witch and everything. Like I love that scene.
Dude, the director's cut swamp witch. We were literally sitting there. We were sitting there and we were like, you know what we need more of in the director's cut? Like jokingly, I did not think they were gonna have more. I was like, we need more swamp witch. She was great. And then like it's like a 3-minute scene with the swamp witch where she's there for like 5 seconds. But I don't know, maybe it was intuition for filmmaking because that scene was very weirdly chopped.
Oh, yeah,
in
it's
the
weird.
Theatrical cut.
Yeah, it's weird. I really love... I want to pick like one of the unicorn scenes. Like, I think that's what I'll go with. I think I'll go with...
The unicorn.
I don't know.
I will never unhear the line delivery from Despicable Me of you don't get the unicorn.
All right, I'll go with like the intro, like the opening sequence.
Dude, you're killing me. You keep stealing everything. I thought you were gonna pick something else. I was gonna be like, I love the director's cut opening scene.
The opening scene is so good.
It really is great. Dang.
And it doesn't fall off. How?
No, it doesn't fall off. It keeps that standard. But dude, specifically because I think that's my favorite shot use in the entire movie is when it holds on that, like, I mean, it's to space, but it's kind of like in this universe's version of hell, essentially. Because again, it kind of imagines hell as like just darkness and emptiness. So space. But when it's holding on that shot of space, it's such a beautiful shot. And in this one, it has him like doing that monologue that he has, which actually is weirdly placed later. I think if I remember correctly in the theatrical cut, he says that monologue like actually later in the movie.
Well, yeah, it goes the opening crawl, opening credits, we see the goblin guy, and then I think there's a sequence with Sara, and then we go to the...
Yeah, but I'm saying that entire opening sequence is what I was calling
it's very interesting, yeah.
But I was saying, like, my favorite use of a shot in the entire movie is that shot that it holds on. While he does that monologue, it's such a cool introduction for his character.
I was about to say, and actually setting that up, which they don't do in the theatrical cut, it helps the ending make a lot more sense.
Yeah, instead of him just randomly flying off into space.
Randomly flying into space. Right.
But I did notice too in this one, there's the final shot of the movie with the sunset parallels, like the framing. I don't know how they did this. Like the framing of the little space thing is like carved in stone of this like little like almost mushrooms type shape. And somehow they got the plants to frame the sun like that for the final shot.
That's good stuff, man.
But no, yeah, I love the opening in the director's cut so much. Like the Sara stuff with her singing through the field. Dude, that opening shot of like the sun shining through the plants.
Goodness, dude. Overwhelming. It's good stuff.
Insanely good. It's probably the best the movie looks, but yeah, it doesn't really drop off below that at any point.
Oh, man, the shot of the blossoming tree with the unicorn running in. That's a good shot,
dude. This movie, it still is so funny that I love this movie because like it really is like it's a movie all about like magical unicorns preserving the light, and like there's so much glitter. There's so much
glitter. Sara, I think, probably drowned in glitter.
She cries. She cries glitter.
She is crying tears of glitter.
Tom Cruise sweats glitter. Like anytime there's any liquid on them, like the costume and makeup people were like, throw some glitter on them.
Time for glitter.
And even then, like, and I think there's honestly, maybe I just noticed it more, but it looked like there was more glitter, not on them, but like on certain stuff in the director's cut.
Yeah, there was.
Like there's just so much glitter. They go into like the armory treasure room and just like everything is coated in glitter.
Man. That's good production design.
That's amazing. Do you have another question though?
Yeah, sure. What did you think of the general ensemble? Because with quest fantasy stories, the ensemble can kind of make or break a lot of the plot beats.
Yeah,
I really like the ensemble.
Yeah, I really like even beyond like we said, the ensemble works really well, and the side characters never do like too much or too little. But I really love their specific use in terms of storytelling in this. Because again, it does that very kind of storybook classical type thing, in which it kind of uses its side characters more as just like, I don't even know how to describe it. Kind of like just plot beats almost. Yeah. And then kind of like it uses them in such a way. Man, it
feels very distinct to their character. Like they're not there very long, but the stuff that they have them do in the story feels very like purposeful.
Yeah, it's not about like their characters like doing like arcing or doing any specific like thing with the protagonist or anything like that, but it's kind of that thing where like you come across this character and that character then like does their thing to like the fullest,
exactly,
and also pushes along the plot, and it uses like all of its side characters for that perfectly, which is a very like fantasy-esque trope. But it pulls this off here better than most movies, like fantasy movies I've ever seen.
I was about to say, this is honestly, like, if you're just judging it as a genre film, like a fantasy film, I think this is honestly one of the best fantasy films I've ever seen. Because
honestly, and like something that holds in my mind, which Lord of the Rings takes itself a little bit more seriously, obviously, which it needs to. But I think honestly one of my biggest complaints about Lord of the Rings as standalone movies is that they rely a little bit too much on like background lore for every single character. Like every side character feels like you have a book behind them, and like. And
that's good to an extent,
and that's very much Tolkien's style writing. Like even more so in the books. That's just how he writes characters and stories, and that's great, and it works really well. But take like the extended cut of Fellowship of the Ring, which I watched, the stuff that's added in there just feels more like superfluous, where like stuff like this doesn't feel like it would even have that kind of thing,
right?
where this just feels like it's so much exposition and so much lore with every character that it's almost draining in some ways. Again, I love Lord of the Rings, gave them like all of those but Two Towers 5 stars. Love the books, love the movies, love them so much, don't get me wrong here. But one of the things that I think makes it so exhausting to people who are not into fantasy is the fact that it requires so much draining amount of like, I guess just thought into the world.
I was about to say, if not for Frodo being there in the like Fellowship of the Ring, I would be like drowning in fantasy mythos and not having a good time.
And this takes kind of the opposite approach to doing fantasy, and instead playing into just tropes and letting characters be their specific trope and pretty much nothing more.
Yeah, they're always having fun with it though.
Yeah, to a really good aspect.
Exactly.
Which again is why I say more storybook than even like classical, like thick. Because again, Tolkien wrote thick, long, deep lore. He had an entire book of background lore that he thought of that he then released, and then he did it again and again. Like there are like 5 background lore books about Lord of the Rings because Tolkien is a madman. I love him.
I don't understand.
Love him, but he's a madman.
It couldn't be me. I'll stick to my storybook fantasies, you know, with unicorns.
Which again is kind of, which is why I mentioned Narnia specifically, because C.S. Lewis is very much that way of writing, of more just fantasy trope symbolism.
Yeah.
A lot of very light, but like, oh, this thing alludes to this thing.
I was about to say light, but you're using symbolism and writing tropes and stuff from the past to inform the audience about how different characters are, you know?
Yeah, which is why, again, I think Narnia is a lot more accessible than Lord of the Rings to modern audiences.
I read like half of the Narnia series. I have not even started the Lord of the Rings series.
Love you, Tolkien. I love Lord of the Rings so much.
The Hobbit was draining for me, and that's even like a baby version.
Right, he wrote that for his kids, man.
That's baby Lord of the Rings, baby. And I was suffocating.
Which, no, if you're not into fantasy, that can happen with like Tolkien's writing. It can be very suffocating, and I think a lot of the character writing in this movie plays into like the opposite way to approach fantasy. And I think that really works well for a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep watching this movie really reminded me that I need to finally sit down and watch The Green Knight one of these days.
Right.
The fact that that's the closest thing we have nowadays.
I've been like inches away from buying it like 3 times.
Oh man, we should get it sometime.
But no, yeah, I think this is interesting. Again, it's not. I know we're like a little bit off topic from the movie, but not really.
Not really.
But I think that style of fantasy writing versus something more like lore filled, which is again why the Lord of the Rings movies are a miracle that they're as good as they are.
I don't understand how they got made.
they're an absolute ridiculous. Miracle. But I think that style is actually interesting because the use of a lot of heavy symbolism and stuff and tropes in fantasy kind of plays to the cinematic language really well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which is one of the reasons I think this works so well with a director and a cinematographer who really know what they're doing.
Right.
Which is insane because this was Ridley Scott's, I think, 3rd film.
I believe so, yeah.
He did The Duelist, Alien, Legend, no.
Oh,
it was his 4th because he did Blade Runner.
So The Duelist was his first.
He did Blade Runner, then Legend. Okay. But like that 4 film run, what was he on?
Blade Runner and Alien. That's crazy, man.
That's an insane
Ridley
run.
Scott.
So
I need to see more of his films.
Ridley Scott knows what he's doing.
Apparently.
And it plays into just the knowledge of filmmaking.
Yeah.
The understanding of the basics of filmmaking play really well into this movie.
Man, there's just, I don't know, there's so many, it's kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark in my mind. It's like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, but for fantasy movies. Because all of the plot beats just work so well. All of the character beats just work so well. And it feels very much like distillation.
I don't know what the word for that would be.
I feel like it encompasses
a heavily distilled.
Yeah, a heavily distilled version of all of the tropes and fun stuff about their genres, you know?
Yeah, and it comes off at a and it works in a specific time when the film was made that it really feels like it was capturing like kind of lightning in a bottle almost for both of those movies. Which is again insane that I've never heard anybody talking about.
I never hear anyone talking about Legend. So good.
The only person I've ever my boss. I actually talked to my boss about Legend. Apparently, she used to love Legend when it came out.
Good.
Which is funny to me.
That's a great movie, man.
And another one of my internet friends knew vaguely about it because Tom Cruise was in it and Tim Curry's design was pretty well known.
Yeah, I was about to say that's, if you mention Legend, odds are the only thing people will know about it is the Tim Curry Lord of Darkness design.
Which, fair enough, it's amazing.
It's great.
And again, it was nominated for the Oscar for makeup.
Yeah, rightfully so.
But wow, yeah.
No, it's if anything, we have sung the praises of this movie, and I believe it's well-deserved.
Now it's time to sing the criticism.
I really honestly don't really have any criticisms of this movie. Is that weird?
I have like some criticisms of the theatrical cut, but even then it wasn't that much. It was mostly stuff that was again solved by the director's cut.
That's what I mentioned. Yeah, it's not all of the stuff that I didn't like about the theatrical cut, which is odd editing decisions in certain scenes,
weird pacing for the story.
Pacing for some of the story beats. It's all like fixed in the director's cut. I think it's honestly kind of a perfect movie.
No, I mean, again, we gave it 5, and it's interesting because like this isn't a movie I would have ever thought to be giving 5 stars going into it. And
I laughed out loud when I saw this Blu-ray when our mom picked it.
I love fantasy. Fantasy is one of my favorite things. I love really like engrossing and rich production design. That's one of my favorite things in movies in general.
Yeah.
So like that's playing to my taste. But even then, like just looking at this movie and like having watched the movie, I would be like, well, whatever.
Whatever.
But like
man.
It's so good.
Right. Goodness. I don't know. It feels very rare to find an old fantasy movie that doesn't suck on some level.
Yeah.
Like usually, and this is from my very limited experience of old fantasy movies, usually they have really horrible pacing.
Yeah, my biggest two comparisons I can think of to this, and again, we haven't watched that many from this time, would be The Neverending Story and Return to Oz. Those are like the two most similar, like, remind me.
Yeah. Return to Oz has a similar vibe to this.
And again, both of those have really rich production design, very nice makeup.
Neverending Story looks amazing.
But like,
Neverending Story is very similar to this in a lot of ways.
Well, that's why Neverending Story and Return to Oz are both very like similar kinds of fantasy. Kind of vaguely dark, very storybook-esque, playing to fantasy tropes in a really rich environment. But I think, again, where both of those movies kind of lose me is a lot of, again, the pacing, the structure, certain filmmaking choices, the writing. Whereas this, like, the writing is so pretty much bare bones. I mean, there's not not much that happens in this movie. Like unicorn horn taken, Jack go.
He encounters various creatures.
Lily taken, Jack go. He band together with various creature. He fight various creature. They make it big finale, light. Fight. Like, that's it. That's all that happens.
That's the whole movie.
But I think that really works for, and like allows it to be so much more engaging of a story and so much more emotionally resonant. That's something like Neverending Story or Return to Oz, which honestly are both kind of convoluted, weird stories.
Yeah, they are. Both are like they both use like framing devices and frame their fantasy stories as like real, like it's all a dream or whatever. It's a meta narrative.
Both the fantasy stories are used as meta narratives, which, I mean, whatever, it's cool, but not even that. But like, I don't know, Neverending Story didn't fully work for me, and a lot of its plot beats and stuff.
It's a weird
I
movie.
did not care that the horse was dying.
Dang.
I was straight up, I was like, move on. This scene is so long. I'm so annoyed at this kid just screaming as this horse sinks.
Wow. Mikey, you just killed like half of the millennials' dreams.
I don't get it, Like, who cares?
That's fun.
Get a different horse.
The dragon, though.
The dragon's
very
fun.
Good. But yeah, legend. Great movie. I love the movie.
I mean, like, again, because everything about this is so bare bones, it's kind of hard to talk about everything, because everything that comes down to being really good in this movie is very, like, tiny, very small details, but on a massive, rich scale.
And that's what makes the director's cut so much better in my eyes, is all of the small flavors and touches in the filmmaking and production design come through so much better in
like the frozen baby.
The frozen, oh my goodness, dude, it's so morbid, like it just comes out of nowhere, man.
No, I still think it's funny that like PG 80s fantasy movies do stuff like this, because like there's some stuff like I wouldn't show certain stuff to this to like certain kids.
I wouldn't show this to some teenagers, man.
It's pretty intense in certain parts. Dude, I do want to talk about the scene.
Okay.
Again, it's so minor, but like so many of these things are like tiny little like things that make it so much fun and so enjoyable to watch. But it's a scene that was added from the director's cut with when they're in like the little prison after the trap has been sprung and everything, and they fall in, and like the scene of the one like prison torturer guy like coming forward through everything and like pulling out the one guy. That's not in the theatrical. That scene is so good. It's so menacing.
It is there. It's just chopped down. If you remember, that shot is there. It's just a lot shorter. And
the score isn't as like I don't know.
No, it definitely is a lot more menacing and much better.
It's such a cool moment in the film, and there's so many things like that. There are so many just like absolutely cool moments for the characters and everything. Funny bits, cool bits, like dude, the wine thing
it's so funny
when he gets shot in the head. Dude, At first you're like, oh my gosh,
Oh
he
my
just got
gosh.
shot in the head on screen. He was a fun little dude who was like deflecting arrows with a pan. That's sick. And then he just dies.
Right.
And then like it turns out he didn't die. He just it went through his little wine
Oh my
bottle.
gosh.
It's amazing, and I love that. I love that it like does silly little things, like Tom Cruise fighting like a Dark Souls character with no armor on. Like he's just flipping and spinning around
My
everywhere.
goodness.
It's so cool.
There-
It's so much fun.
There's so many good choices here. We haven't even talked about the Mia Sara goth transformation.
Mia Sara goth transformation. That dance scene we were talking
so
about
good.
earlier, it ends with her like on screen like cool little costume cut change to her being like full like goth queen.
It's so funny.
It's
whoever
amazing.
whoever wrote this movie, we mentioned who wrote this movie, but props to them.
Dude, and the costume and the makeup and her hair and everything.
She's so good in this,
That's
man.
so cool.
Why did
Sorry.
they cut out her singing?
Sorry, Sloane from Ferris Bueller. This is the superior Mia Sara.
I honestly don't understand. Like, she feels like such a one-dimensional character in the theatrical
Yeah.
cut, and she feels so much more alive and much richer in the director's
Somehow
cut.
just like adding like a couple shots here and there.
They
and
hold
a
on her
couple
reactions
moments.
so much
Yeah.
longer in
and
this.
like giving her like her singing connection with Jack and everything.
It's so good.
Like I think the relationship between Jack and Lily works so much better in
Oh,
the
yeah.
director's cut in general. Like take even the unicorn scene again
Mm-hmm.
when she's going forward and he's like trying, like he's like no, like that scene works really well.
It's so good.
Whereas in the theatrical cut, I was like, that's kind of weird that she's just like
just kind of walking up.
she's going up and he's like no,
No. Stop. Don't do it.
Whereas like it works really well with their
Yeah.
characters that get a little bit more time, and again you see and understand Lily a lot more as a character at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's
so cool.
so good. I mentioned in my initial review that all the best elements were Mia Sara and the glitter.
Mia Sara and the glitter. What more can
What
you
more
say?
can you ask for, really, in a
Tom
movie?
Cruise is hilarious in this, though.
Tom Cruise is really funny. He's actually killing the game. I still have yet to come across a Tom Cruise performance that I don't like.
His haircut, though, man, it's a big mistake. Gump is a really fun character.
Gump
I
is
wanted
fun,
to mention
yeah.
Gump. I think he's a really he's a standout of the side characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the theatrical cut his little nature timer.
They cut so much of Gump's character in
Right?
the theatrical. They
So,
don't
like-
give him his little instrument.
Right, he goes full D&D bard on Tom Cruise and threatens him because he's going to use a violin to play magic at him. That's so cool. That's a fantasy trope that gets hardly ever touched in movies. Like
Right?
you never see people like playing music as weapons or like spells in movies, and that
It's so
sucks
good.
because that's like the coolest thing in the world. He also has a little nature clock that runs off of like
Nature.
hummingbird wing beats and badger tails and stuff. Like it's so cool.
Flicks of a badger tail.
These 3 flicks of a badger's tail and we would have moved on.
Yeah. Man, just all of the side characters are such a joy to watch, and they're all so much fun. I love it. I love this movie. Go watch this movie. Go watch the director's cut of this
Right?
movie.
Like we could talk about like the minute details and like break down everything for forever. Like if we pulled up the movie and just like went through it frame by
you
frame.
could go shot by shot, just boom.
Which,
There's-
by the way, on the Blu-ray copy we have, this Blu-ray copy may look ugly, but it's super sick.
yeah, the
It
cover
has-
sucks, but it's a great release.
It has a score only version of the movie too, which
Yep.
would be so sick for this because they knew
I want to watch the commentary sometime.
they knew that the cinematography is so good and the visual storytelling is so good that you could just do that and it would be awesome.
Right? But yeah, no, it's go watch the movie. Is
Go
what we're
watch the
saying.
movie,
We
yes.
both gave it a 10. If you like
the director's cut at 10.
yeah, if you like Ridley Scott, I mean, I think the theatrical cut is still great.
No, I give the theatrical cut a 4.5.
Yeah.
It's great.
But if you can get your hands
Director's
on the
cut
director's cut,
is
yeah.
even better.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying.
But yeah, go watch the movie. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, like
is the
literally
takeaway.
I have pretty much not really any big criticisms of the movie.
Right.
Every scene is so fun, from like the finale to like the opener.
It's such a rich and beautiful little movie. I love it.
It never takes itself too seriously to where it can have light, funny moments, and it can also be dark and cool. And that's a thing that fantasy really plays to in a way that a lot of things don't. It can be really engaging and fun and comforting to be in, while also having some really, really cool dark moments.
Yeah.
Fantasy is cool.
Fantasy is cool. Maybe this and Dark Crystal are slowly turning me on to fantasy. Slowly becoming a fantasy guy.
Fantasy is great, Rebby. It's such a cool like collection of tropes and ideas that play into such a unique and fun storytelling.
When done correctly. I still like sci-fi better. I'm sorry. It shall always be, unfortunately. I'm a sucker for like a robot, cool little robot guy.
But yeah, do you have any questions?
No,
comments,
I mean
concerns?
that's pretty much everything I wanted to mention about it. I think it's a beautiful little slice of filmmaking, and I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah,
it's
like
great.
it feels so weird coming from like Ridley Scott's career, but like and just having not heard much about it, heard anybody talking about it, but like it's just like it is a really
fantastic.
fun, not too long, like just like a nice, cool, great piece of filmmaking that I'm very happy to have watched and like be able to watch like again and again. And I'll guarantee
I need to find this Blu-ray.
I guarantee I'll watch this for like the rest of my life.
Right? Yeah. No, it's great. But yeah, now that we've discussed Legend, let's get into the other stuff we watched over the past week.
Before we get into this, I just wanted to shout out, because I think this is a really cool statement. One of the top reviews for it on Letterboxd, which again, a lot of the top reviews are extremely positive. But this one said, a friend recently said that this will probably be the best Legend of Zelda movie we'll ever get, and I'm inclined to agree.
Right.
And like that's so true. Like it
so true.
No, like if you think about it, like so many of the tropes, because again, fantasy tropes are very similar, but like, dude, Lord of Darkness, very similar kind of character to Ganon. Why did I just lose his name? Main character.
Jack?
Jack, yes. Jack is such a light character, because again, it uses these characters as such like storytelling foils so much, and like uses their tropes and everything, that he's such a light, like kind of put yourself in his shoes kind of protagonist, like Link always is in the Legend of Zelda stuff. There's a princess. I'm telling you,
it's good stuff.
There's goblins, swamps,
unicorns,
side characters.
Are there unicorns in Legend?
I don't remember any unicorns, but still, like it's very Legend of Zelda-y.
I need a Wind Waker film or miniseries, one of the two. Animated, of course.
It would probably be terrible.
Oh, it would probably be bad.
But yes, that's just a cool thought.
Yes.
But the What We Watched segment, for those of you who do not know, a little segment we do on the end where, again, like Rebby said, we talk about all of the movies outside of that we've watched since our last episode.
Yes.
Just briefly, not too much in depth. But we were starting from the 11th, correct?
Yeah, our last episode was released on the 10th, I believe. I don't remember. But we didn't talk about stuff on the 11th. So, yeah, 11th onward.
All right. So, starting off the 11th, we watched Invader Zim Enter the Florpus.
Heck yeah, man.
I had heard good things about it.
Yeah.
I've never watched any Invader Zim stuff. I've never seen the show.
Neither have I. I've never seen anything from it before.
But this was really like, I mean, it wasn't surprisingly good, because again, I had heard really great things about it, but it was really good. It was really fun.
It's so funny.
It's so funny. The animation is so good. It's one of those like really short, concise, really like punchy animated movies that like automatically you can't help but love.
Yeah, and this kind of has that Simpsons-y kind of quality of just throwing a joke out every couple seconds.
Right, the joke count is so high, and like, some of them don't always land, but because of the joke count being so high, it works really well.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a fun little slice of just animated comedy. I gotta love it. This has what Teen Titans Go wants.
Yeah, honestly. But I mean, I would agree that it's very similar in vibe to Teen Titans Go.
Yeah,
to the movies.
It's that style of comedy done with a bit more finesse, I think, and a bit more creativity too. I love the animation and everything.
Oh, the animation is so
good.
gorgeous. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
I also gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Then we watched Legend for the first time.
Theatrical cut, baby.
4.5 out of 5. We just talked about it.
Yeah.
Then on the 12th, we watched A Master Builder. Jonathan Demme.
That was a weird movie.
Wallace Shawn. Andre Gregory.
It's a weird movie.
In the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, Criterion, baby.
It's a play.
It's
put on filming. It's very weird.
It's so weird.
So many of the creative choices are weird. I feel like I could talk about it for a long time because it's just like a bafflingly weird movie.
It is engaging.
It is very I enjoyed it a lot. But it's so weird. So many of the filmmaking choices and ideas, and the fact that it's a film at all when it's very clearly supposed to be a stage play.
Yeah, I think it would. I think as much as I do like the film version of it, I think it would work a lot better on the stage. Definitively.
There are so many moments that are really funny where like a character will walk just out of the room and another character will walk in and they'll start talking super loudly about the person who just walked out because it's
in classic stage fashion.
Because it's a stage play.
My goodness. I will say, I wanted to shout out how inventive the cinematography is for this, and I think it works really well.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite elements.
It makes me really sad, especially being that it's one of the top reviews for the movie, talking about the fact that it's all shot in handheld close-ups on a really bad camera.
But it's not.
But it's not. You just didn't make it past like the first 15 minutes of the movie.
I was about to say, once you get past like the first 15 minutes, it moves to a really elegant, spatially aware, like... It changes aspect ratios.
Right, it changes aspect ratios. It looks beautiful once it does.
It looks great, yeah.
And it's a very interesting creative choice, but it makes me really sad that that's one of the top reviews because I feel like this person and a lot of other people just watched the very beginning and were like, wow.
This sucks.
This sucks because, I mean, it kind of does in the very beginning.
It does. No, it does.
It looks bad.
It looks very
everybody is acting like they're on stage, like they're doing stage performances that are way too over the top for film. Again, I don't know what the creative choices were, but once it switches to like the aspect ratio and it switches to kind of like the weird stuff that goes on, the performances get a heck of a lot better.
I will say I still don't like Wallace Shawn's performance in this movie. I think he's screaming way too many of his lines here.
And again, stage acting.
Yeah, like I said, needs to be a stage play, but for what it is, it's good. I liked it.
I gave it a 3.5.
I also gave it a 3.5.
Then we watched up next The Haunted Palace.
Haunted Palace.
63 horror movie.
Roger Corman. I believe this was my second film of his. I had previously seen Bucket of Blood, which was
terrible film,
which was good.
Terrible film.
It had solid direction and everything. I didn't like a lot of the screenplay choices.
I hate the screenplay.
But The Haunted Palace, very good.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool movie.
I really love what it's doing. I kind of wish we would have seen it in black and white. I don't think color really benefited this movie because it was colored afterwards.
Yeah, no, it was colored in post. But I wasn't going to go through, since we were watching it with someone else, I wasn't going to go through the trouble of like, hey, switch it to black and white. But yeah, Haunted Palace. It's Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, I would love more stuff like that. I wish it leaned more Lovecraftian.
I like how Lovecraftian it is. You think it could have gone more Lovecraftian?
Listen, so I have this thing with H.P. Lovecraft stuff. He was a terrible guy.
Oh, terrible person.
I hate that he grew up in such a racist way.
Yeah.
Like literally such vitriolic racism from him. It makes me so sad.
No, he was a very hateful person.
Because his lore and his storytelling that he crafted in his books are insanely up my alley. I love his style of gothic cosmic horror. He pulls it off like Stephen King could never.
Right, exactly.
Which is why I'm actually really interested in watching, what was that called?
Color Out of Space?
No, it was recent. It was like Lovecraft Country or something.
Oh, yeah, the HBO.
Where a bunch of black filmmakers worked with his stories, which is cool.
That was an HBO show, yeah.
More of that. Just because I would, like, his work is really good.
His work is so cool, yeah.
Imbued with a lot of hate, which makes me sad.
But yeah, Haunted Palace, cool direction, cool atmosphere, cool monster. And I love Vincent Price in this movie. He's great.
Yeah, it was a fun movie.
Yeah, fun little horror romp. I liked it.
I give it a 3.5. The monster reveal at the end is the coolest thing to ever happen in a 60s movie.
Oh my gosh, the monster is so cool in this. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
On the 13th, I watched Scooby-Doo: The Mystery Begins.
Nice.
The first of the other 2000s live-action Scooby-Doo movies, the ones from Nickelodeon.
Oof.
With Robbie Amell. Weird stuff. The Scooby-Doo model is surprisingly works really well.
Nice.
He was actually really fun, and it works well with the visual comedy.
There you go.
And Shaggy can be pretty fun sometimes when he isn't breaking out of his voice that he's doing for Shaggy. But it overall is just not very good, and the cast never really does it. It feels like a cast is cosplaying Scooby-Doo characters.
Feels more like a fan film kind of thing.
It does. It really does.
Darn.
I gave it a 2, but I did give it a because it has a lot of fun things going for it.
There you go.
Also on the 13th, I watched Scooby-Doo: Curse of the Lake Monster.
How many Scooby-Doo movies did you?
A lot. The sequel to this, which was worse in almost every conceivable way.
Dang.
Including the fact that Scooby-Doo is in it for 5 seconds.
What?
He is hardly in the movie at all.
Oh my god. It's literally called Scooby-Doo.
The entire plot revolves around a bunch of annoying relationship drama between the 4 of them.
Ugh.
And then its conclusion to all of that relationship drama is the stupidest thing in the world. I still gave it a 2 because it's not actively.
It's not a cinematic disaster.
Yeah, but it's not good.
Yeah.
Also on the 13th, I watched Scooby-Doo Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery.
Rock and Roll Mystery. Was there a Rock and Roll Mystery?
Weirdest freaking movie I've ever seen. 90% of it is a hallucination. Actually,
canonically.
Weirdest crossover ever. Was not the biggest fan. I don't think it worked very well on a structural level. I gave it a 2.5.
Nice.
Also on the 13th,
oh my God.
I watched Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery. John Cena worked surprisingly well. It was really fun. Not the greatest, but everything about it that made it a Scooby-Doo movie was there. All of the elements worked. The characters were all fun. The mystery was good. And John Cena, even though he was more plot relevant than I thought he would be, is fun.
Like Bobby Flay being way more
like Bobby Flay. I gave it 3 stars.
Pretty good.
That was the 13th.
On my 13th was a bit different. I watched for the very first time The French Dispatch.
Hey yo.
New Wes Anderson feature as of 2021 anyway. It was new. Very, very good. I've always liked Wes Anderson. I wasn't so much a fan of Moonrise Kingdom, but it's still good. He's still a very talented filmmaker. So I was excited for The French Dispatch. Yossi, friend of the podcast, he was on our Multiverse of Madness episode and our Princess Bride episode, if you want to go check those out. He loves this movie. He kept trying to get me to watch it, and now I finally have.
Seems like a very Yossi movie.
Yeah, very, very much a Yossi movie. And I think it might be my new favorite Wes Anderson movie. This is him at his technical best, I think, that I've seen him. I love Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's the only thing that would measure up against
the
this.
biggest criticism I heard for it actually was that it was so focused on being technically perfect and Wes Anderson-y that its story suffered.
I don't know, man. I think the anthology works really, really well, and it all centers, it's all like a memoir for the publisher of a newspaper, which, I mean, if you know the premise of The French Dispatch, I don't know. I think it's a beautiful movie. I think it's a technically fantastic movie. I love the ensemble. I love all of the creative choices that they took with the production design. Micah, they use sets in this movie. They use so many physical sets and it made me so happy because walls were wheeling around everywhere. I'm like, yeah. No, it's just a great movie to be in, and I can't wait to see it again and again. It's fantastic. I loved it. 5 out of 5. And then on the 14th, I watched Ready or Not for the very first time. Shout out to my local library. But yeah, Ready or Not, I don't know how popular this movie was. If you've heard of it, it's a 2019...
I remember seeing a ton of ads for it. So
it's a 2019 horror comedy kind of thing. Almost in the vein of Knives Out. I know a lot of people have compared it to Knives Out, and I think that's a good comparison. It's obviously a lot more horror than Knives Out is. But it was good. It was fun. Samara Weaving does like a tropical bird scream in this movie, and it is fantastic. I wish its character writing was a bit more concrete. That's honestly the biggest thing holding this back from being like 10 of 10 masterpiece, one of my favorite movies kind of thing. But it's really fun. Samara Weaving's really fun in it. I love the direction it goes with its like kind of demonic premise. It's really fun. I loved it. Good time. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
On the 15th, we watched The Post. A rewatch for me, first watch for Robbie. Another Yossi down, really getting on Robbie for not watching this.
Yossi's like, you got to watch more movies. He recommended me another movie this past week.
I logged this like slightly before Robbie did, and he was like immediately like, and where was Robbie you were watching this?
Also, again, shout out to my local library for having this, letting me check it out. Good
letting
stuff.
You? They're like, allowing you can't check this out. Only certain people are allowed to.
I mean, the post is a worthy DVD if you were to gatekeep a DVD.
The Post is a really cool movie. It's really fun, cool, modern man. Spielberg. I think it works really, really well. All the performances are great. The pacing is great. The stakes are great.
Dude, the blocking and cinematography alone are enough to get me to love this movie.
The cast is outstandingly wild.
So good. Again, another kind of similar to The French Dispatch, a very technically intricate movie, which I did not expect.
I gave it a 4.5.
Shout out to movies that Yossi recommends about newspapers that are technical masterpieces. Gotta be one of my favorite genres. I also gave it a 5 out of 5. I loved it.
I said 4.5.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Oh, man.
I did not give it a 5.
Scathing.
You've been giving every Spielberg movie you watch a 5 out of 5.
Is that so terrible?
I'd be scared to watch Crystal Skull with you. On the 15th as well, I watched Scooby-Doo, Legend of the Phantasaur. This was again a rewatch for me.
This was like half a rewatch.
Love me some Phantasaur.
Phantasaur.
I think it's one of my favorite Scooby-Doo movies that I've seen so far. Out of the 30-some Scooby-Doo movies I have watched, I think this one is great. I think its physical comedy is some of the best that it is in the Scooby-Doo series. I love Shaggy in it. I just love so much of everything it's doing.
Okay, fair enough. I wasn't as crazy about it as you were, evidently. There are a bunch of Scooby-Doo movies that I'd easily prefer over this one.
Well, I think I put this as like, it's in my top 10.
Yeah.
It's not.
It was good, though. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
I gave it a 4.
Whoa.
Then on the 16th, I watched Blood Simple. For the first time.
Ayo.
Coen Brothers' first film,
their
which
debut
is insane.
Feature.
Insane. It was amazing. I really loved it. I was kind of surprised that it's got such a mixed reception from people that I follow. Like a lot of people, it didn't really work for them, I guess. And
I had heard some mixed things about it.
This was really great. Again, I would say it's a simple story, but it's actually really complicated, but it's very small stakes. There's like 5 characters all doing their own thing. The sequences are all really cool. There's a really cool nightmare sequence at one point.
Ooh,
the entire thing is beautiful. The lighting is some of the best lighting I've ever seen in a movie. It all keeps a very kind of anxiety-inducing dream feel throughout the entire movie.
Like a fever dream?
Kind of. I don't know. Like it's very... The entire thing is like a panic attack where you don't know what's going on, and like I don't know, it's very, very cool, very up my alley. I'm really excited to watch it again.
I can't wait to see it.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I didn't give it a 5 was just it wasn't quite as engaging in the middle as I wanted it to be. It kind of lost a little bit of its like snappiness, but still so good.
And on the 16th, I watched Sharknado for the first time. a bit worse of a movie, a lower caliber of film, one might say.
A lower tier.
But it was fun. I had heard. I know it's kind of like a cult classic at this point. And it's probably the best film I've seen from The Asylum. For those familiar. But it's interesting. I think it is a very ambitious film, and it works surprisingly well. I love the way the CGI sharks move. They're so funny. I give it a 2.5 out of 5.
Then on the 17th, we watched The Big Sleep, the 1940s version.
Yeah, Howard Hawks, baby. I love Howard Hawks.
Humphrey Bogart, Howard Hawks.
Humphrey Bogart is so much fun in this.
Howard Hawks really is a good director.
He's such a good director. Yeah.
But I really loved what this movie was doing. Like, so much of this is like noir at its most fun.
Right.
Like Humphrey Bogart, I'm not a big fan of, but he was so really fun in this. So many of the noir tropes like work so well.
Yeah.
I didn't like it as much as I was hoping because by the middle it really kind of lost me. I had almost fully disengaged with it because the story, like the actual mystery and everything, is kind of like shockingly incoherent at parts.
I guess.
So it leaves you with very little to hold you on during some of the more like down times in the story.
I could see that for sure. That wasn't as big of a problem for me while I was watching it.
I just got kind of bored and it felt really long, even though it's not that long of a
movie. It's not that long. It does feel long. I will give you that.
But still really great what it's doing. Like when it does what it does well, it does it like so well and so fun.
I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
I give it a 3.5.
And then I rewatched Legend.
We just did that.
That was like
an hour. Like an hour.
That was like an hour ago. What's up with that?
That's crazy. We're coming up right to the present. But yeah, that's what we watched.
It is.
Some good movies, some really cool movies.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the episode, especially if you made it this far.
Yeah.
We ended up talking about what we watched for almost as long as we talked about Legend.
Well, that's not true. It's only about half the time, I think. Yeah. But yeah, go watch The French Dispatch if you're old enough to watch The French Dispatch.
Go watch Blood Simple.
Go watch The Post.
If you're old enough to watch Blood Simple, I guess. I don't
Go watch The Post,
Go watch
baby.
The Post.
It's a great movie.
Watch Scooby-Doo movies. Go watch Legend. Find the director's cut if you can.
Seek out the director's cut.
Seek the director's cut. You might find it at your local Barnes &
Go on
Noble.
your own fantasy quest to find the director's cut.
You might find it at your own Barnes & Noble. So while you're picking up those new Criterions and you're shopping around, maybe this time take a moment, walk over to those DVDs and Blu-rays. We find
I got Goodfellas for like $5.
We find Scooby-Doo movies there all the time, like Scooby-Doo movies you can't find anywhere else. Witch's Ghost, Zombie Island, like the best Scooby-Doo movies are sitting in those little cheap Barnes & Noble bins. So go find it, watch it, enjoy it.
And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.